For nearly 4 decades, people around the world have laughed at the same man, a man who barely speaks, a man who turns the simplest situations into complete chaos, a man known simply as Mr. Bean. But what if the truth behind this legendary character is far more emotional than anyone imagined? Because behind the awkward expressions, the childish behavior, and the endless laughter lies the story of a man who spent much of his life battling insecurities, personal tragedies, terrifying near-death experiences, and the heavy burden of fame. In 2025, as Rowan Atkinson celebrated his 70th birthday, the world once again turned its attention toward the actor who created one of television's most recognizable characters. Newspapers revisited his incredible career. Fans shared their favorite memories. And old theories about Mr. Bean suddenly resurfaced across the internet. For years, many viewers believed Mr. Bean was some kind of alien. After all, the original TV series famously begins with him falling from a bright light in the sky onto a lonely street. The unusual opening sequence inspired countless theories. Was he abandoned from a spaceship? Was he a visitor from another world trying to understand humanity? Or was there a much simpler explanation? As journalists interviewed Rowan Atkinson about his life and career, they naturally asked him about these long-standing theories. His answer surprised many people. Mr. Bean, he explained, was never meant to be an alien. Instead, he described the character as someone who is socially alien, a person who simply doesn't fit into normal society. Then Rowan revealed the idea that has helped fans understand Mr. Bean better than ever before. According to him, Mr. Bean is essentially a 9-year-old child trapped inside the body of an adult man. Suddenly, everything made sense. The selfishness, the curiosity, the lack of social awareness, the endless ability to create trouble. Mr. Bean doesn't think like a grown man. He reacts to the world exactly the way a child might. And that innocent but chaotic perspective became the foundation of one of the most successful comedy characters ever created. Today, Rowan Atkinson lives a much quieter life. Unlike many celebrities, he avoids social media entirely. He prefers privacy over publicity. While much of the entertainment industry constantly seeks attention, Rowan has spent years moving further away from the spotlight. But to truly understand why Mr. Bean became such a unique character, we need to travel back to the very beginning, long before the television success, long before the worldwide fame, long before millions of people knew his name. Because the roots of Mr. Bean were planted during a childhood filled with challenges that few fans ever knew about. The story begins in County Durham, England. Born on January 6, 1955, Rowan Sebastian Atkinson grew up on a farm in a hard-working family. His early life was simple, disciplined, and far removed from the glamorous world of entertainment. But there was one challenge that would shape his future forever. From a young age, Rowan struggled with a severe stutter. Speaking in front of people became difficult. Certain sounds felt almost impossible to pronounce. As a result, school was not always kind to him. His speech difficulties, combined with his shy personality, made him an easy target for teasing and bullying. Many children would have allowed those experiences to break their confidence. But Rowan found another path. Instead of relying on words, he began expressing himself through facial expressions, body language, and observation. Without realizing it, he was developing the very skills that would later make him famous across the globe. Yet nobody could have guessed that this quiet boy would eventually create a character capable of making billions laugh without saying much at all. As he grew older, Rowan's intelligence became impossible to ignore. While many future actors spend their youth studying drama, Rowan pursued something completely different: engineering. He attended Newcastle University and earned a degree in electrical engineering. Then he continued his education at Oxford University, one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. Everything seemed to point toward a successful engineering career. But fate had other plans. Because at Oxford, Rowan met a young writer named Richard Curtis. The friendship would change both of their lives forever. Together, they began experimenting with comedy performances and stage productions. And during those performances, Rowan discovered something extraordinary. Whenever he stepped into a character, his stutter almost disappeared. For the first time in his life, he felt completely free. The stage became more than entertainment. It became an escape. a place where he could communicate without fear, a place where silence could become powerful. And that discovery would eventually lead to the birth of a character unlike. The turning point arrived in 1987. By that time, Rowan Atkinson had already established himself as a talented comedian, but he was still searching for something unique, something that could connect with audiences anywhere in the world. That opportunity came during the prestigious Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal, Canada. Instead of relying on traditional jokes or complicated dialogue, Rowan decided to test an unusual idea. What if comedy didn't need language at all? What if facial expressions, awkward situations, and physical movements could make people laugh regardless of where they came from? Standing before a largely French-speaking audience, Rowan introduced an early version of a strange and awkward character who communicated almost entirely without words. It was a huge risk. If the experiment failed, the entire concept might disappear forever. But something incredible happened. The audience laughed, and they kept laughing. Language barriers simply vanished. People from different cultures understood the humor instantly. That moment convinced Rowan and his creative partner Richard Curtis that they had discovered something special. Even the character's name wasn't finalized at first. Several options were considered. Names like Mr. White and Mr. Cauliflower were discussed. But eventually, they settled on something simple. Mr. Bean, a name that sounded ordinary, memorable, and slightly ridiculous, perfect for the character they were creating. 3 years later, on January 1st, 1990, television viewers across Britain were introduced to Mr. Bean for the very first time. Nobody could have predicted what would happen next. The opening scene immediately captured people's attention. A mysterious beam of light, a lonely street, and suddenly, a confused man dropping from the sky. Within minutes, audiences knew they were watching something completely different from any sitcom they had seen before. Mr. Bean wasn't witty. He wasn't charming. He wasn't even particularly intelligent. Yet somehow he was impossible to stop watching. Everyday activities became disasters. Simple problems became epic adventures. And every episode felt completely unpredictable. The show quickly became a national phenomenon. Viewership numbers continued climbing. Families gathered around their televisions each week to see what chaos Mr. Bean would create next. The peak of the show's popularity arrived in 1992. An episode titled The Trouble with Mr. Bean attracted nearly 19 million viewers in the United Kingdom alone. For a country of that size, the number was extraordinary. But Britain was only the beginning. Soon, Mr. Bean was traveling across borders and cultures. Unlike most television characters, he didn't depend on dialogue. This made him universally accessible. People in Europe laughed. People in Asia laughed. People in Africa laughed. People in South America laughed. No translation was required. No subtitles were needed. Mr. Bean spoke a language everyone understood, the language of human behavior. As the television series expanded internationally, producers realized the character's potential was far bigger than television. They wanted something larger, something capable of reaching audiences around the world. A movie. In 1997, that dream became reality. The feature film Bean arrived in cinemas worldwide. Many television adaptations struggle when moving to the big screen. But Mr. Bean proved to be an exception. Audiences loved it. The movie became a massive commercial success. It earned more than $250 million globally and transformed Rowan Atkinson into one of the most recognizable comedy stars on earth. The success brought enormous wealth. It brought prestige. It brought international fame. But it also introduced new challenges. Because while millions of people saw a comedy legend, Rowan Atkinson remained a private individual with passions that existed far away from movie sets and television cameras. One of those passions was speed. Rowan had always loved cars. Not ordinary cars. Extraordinary ones. High-performance machines capable of incredible speeds. Over the years, he built an impressive collection of luxury vehicles and became known among automotive enthusiasts as someone who genuinely understood and appreciated engineering excellence. For him, cars weren't simply status symbols. They were works of art, mechanical masterpieces. Perhaps it made sense for a man with an engineering background to fall in love with precision machines. But that passion would eventually place him in serious danger. In October 1999, Rowan experienced his first major car accident while driving his beloved McLaren F1. The crash shocked fans. Although he survived, the incident served as a reminder that even the world's most advanced vehicles can become dangerous in a fraction of a second. The accident left a deep emotional impact. For many people, surviving such an event would be enough to abandon high performance driving forever. But Rowan's love for cars remained unchanged. What nobody realized was that even greater challenges were waiting just around the corner. Because while the world continued celebrating Mr. Bean's success, cracks were slowly beginning to appear beneath the surface. The fame that had brought so much joy was also creating pressure. The image of Mr. Bean was becoming so powerful that it threatened to overshadow the man who created him. And before long, Rowan Atkinson would find himself facing not only career challenges, but life-and-death situations that would test him in ways no comedy performance ever could. The next chapter of his story would become far more dramatic than anything audiences had ever seen on screen.